Bet you wasn't expecting to see that in the garage, was ya? Let's get you in out the rain and I'll show you what we're doing. Hello everybody, a very warm welcome back to the MEC-TEC garage. Now, as you can see, I've got the old cabin here. Now, that isn't through sorcery or anything else. Somehow I've managed to shoehorn this in here, along with the three-wheel van, which is still in here just to the right of me, along with all the other junk that is in here that I haven't managed to sort out yet, due to the new shed build having a few issues, shall we say, of the base variety. I'm not going to go into too much detail at the moment. You'll find out more about that in the shed video when I do it, or in the workshop video when I do it. But needless to say, I've had a few problems with that. So I've managed to rearrange yet again the MEC-TEC garage, and I've managed to shoehorn the cabinet. It's pretty close quarters, as you can see. But the reason this is in here is because it is that time of year again when it needs its yearly overhaul. And on the bottom of this door, probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I did a couple of spots of rust, which have obviously gradually come back again. Now, last year on the overhaul, he said to me, you need to get those sorted out for next year because they are starting to creep through again. So it's going to be repairing the bottom of this door and also the bottom of the wing now as well, because that has started to bubble up where it has obviously got all the gunk and rubbish off the road wheels spraying up at it the whole time. So it's going to be rubbing down the bottom of the wing, the two areas on the bottom of the door on this side, getting that all done and repainted. And then I need to take, once that's dry, I need to take the cab out, flip it round, and on the back, on the other side, you would have seen it a little while ago, I did a video of loads of different jobs on the cab, one of which was the rear door. I got hit by a bus, or rather, I should say, a passenger opened the door onto a bus as it was going past, and it hit the edge of my door as I was going along. So we did our best to sort of straighten that out in the last video and make it usable again with no sharp edges, but it does need repairing properly for the overhaul, so we've got to do that as well. So without further ado, let's get down here, start getting this all prepped and rubbed back and retreated with some more rust stuff, which obviously doesn't work that well because, as you can see, it's come back. But anyway, that's regardless, besides the point. We need to do it again, so let's crack on, get this rubbed back, and we'll see what we're dealing with underneath the paint. Right, I just thought I'd show you exactly what we've got to do before I touch anything. You can see here the patch of rust that I did before. I literally painted a square here. It wasn't the greatest job in the world, but it did the job, and it has done the job for the last year and a half, 2 years. It's not horrendously come back, but it is obviously coming back. This is the new bit that started on the bottom of this wing here, which you're going to have to try and blow in. Sorry, I'm not pointing the camera right at the right place, am I? But there we go. So we've got to sort that corner out there, and the other little section is this little bit here. You can see it's all discoloured and it's starting to come through again. So let's get the DA going, give us a little sand back and see what's underneath. Hopefully it won't be too horrendous with any luck. And I think what I'm going to do this time around, rather than just doing two patches, I'm going to actually probably paint at least half the door. Let me zoom you out. I'm going to paint at least half the door, if not the full bottom of the door, just so that there's no joins, because it didn't look that great last time. It looked all right, but it wasn't too great. But I don't know, we'll see on that one. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, but whichever way around it is, I need to sort it out. So let's crack on, get the sander going, see what we got. Right, there we go. There is our 3 areas rubbed down, as you can see. Used a combination of a flapper disc on a grinder and my DA sander. I have got it pretty smooth. There's no sort of, you can't feel any edges. It's all feathered out nice. There's a little indentation where that little tiny bit of rust is there. You can probably just about see that in the middle there. Obviously there's a little bit of an indentation here where this rust is and that rust is there. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is I might go over that again with a grinder, just see if I can get that a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. And then I'm going to treat it with the old neutral rust. Now, I said at the beginning of the video that the rust converter didn't do anything. Well, I don't actually think I had neutral rust when I did this, and if I did, maybe I didn't use it because there's no evidence of it being on here. I would have thought it would have been purple underneath where it turns it purple. So we're going to give the old rust converter another go, and hopefully it will do the trick and hopefully hold this back a bit. So let's get that put on and we'll let that dry, and then we'll carry on from there. There we go, our neutral rust is on there. As you can see, it goes on like a white liquid and it dries a dark purple on the rusty areas. I've gone over, give it a liberal coating of that, so I'm going to let that dry now. I've got to go and get the kids from school, and then we'll come back and carry on with sorting this out, and I'll probably give it a little sand back, get off any excess rust converter that's on there, and hopefully just leave it in the divots of the rust. Gone right around the front edge of that bit there as well. Can't really see it very well because of the light, but there you go. You can see I've done right up the front edge there as well, and I've also gone right inside that wing in there as well, so that is hopefully going to protect that nice. So we'll let that dry, and once it's done we'll come back to you. Right, there we go. That is the rust converter now dry. As you can see, it's gone like a funny purpley weird colour. I'm going to give it a little flat off with, I've got some like foam sanding pads, or I might just use a bit of, actually use a bit of already used 240 just to go over it and get the sort of brush marks out of it as such. So I'll do that, get that, as you can see it clogs up the paper. I'm going to do that, get that sort of excess off. Apologies if the camera's bouncing all over the place, but I am holding it. Yeah, I'll give that a little flat off, and then we'll get some filler primer on there and see what it looks like. So I'll get that done, and then we'll get onto the primer. Right, that's what we're left with after rubbing that down. Now, I don't know whether that's the correct thing to do. In my head it is. It just makes it nice and smooth. I'm making this up as I go along, so take that what you will. Sorry about the strobe lines on the screen. It's this LED light I'm using, but you can see there now the rust converter is basically only in the pits of the rust and the little area there. So I've left that obviously in the bits it needs to be in, and I've left the bit on the arch at the front there as it was, because there's no point in rubbing that flat, because obviously any extra layer there will help. Unfortunately, I did catch that trim a couple of times with the buzzy wheel when I was doing that, but still not a lot I can do about that. But I'm not too worried about that. It's not a show car, it is a workhorse with 180 what is it on, 184,000 miles I think it's on now. So right, let's get this all masked up, which is going to take me a little while. I want to make sure that I don't get paint absolutely everywhere. We'll get all this masked up, and then we'll get some filler primer on the go. I've just got some Halford's filler primer, nothing special. We'll get a couple of light coats of that on there. I want to get a heater going out here as well to obviously aid it drying. In fact, I might put a heater on this just for a little while before I put the primer on, because that was a little bit, although it rubbed back with the paper all right, it was clagging the paper up a little bit. So just to make sure that's totally dry, I might stick a heater on it for a minute before I start getting any primer on the go, and that'll obviously aid that with drying as well then, because it'll be a slightly warmer panel underneath. So I'll do that, and we'll get some primer going after that. Right, things have escalated slightly, as they often do with bodywork. As you can see now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different patches. I was looking at the door under the spotlight, and I could see all these little stars in the paint crazing and things like that, and I thought to myself, I know what that is, so there's no point in me doing 2 bits of it and not doing the rest. So basically we're doing the bottom of the whole door now. So I've just put some more neutral rust on these little areas that I've uncovered, and I've put a little bit more on that one, and I've put a little bit more on those bad bits as well, just to hopefully make sure that it's properly neutralised with any luck, and then hopefully we'll get carry on. I'm probably thinking what I'm going to do now is, rather than prime it first, I'm actually going to just buzz the whole bottom of the door down with a DA, just so that it's all roughed up like this and ready to go, and then obviously it'll take the primer a little bit better we can then flat it back once the primer's on there, get it all nice and smooth and flat, and then go for a final mask up for some black paint. That is the theory. So hopefully that'll work, and hopefully it'll be good enough to pass the overhaul. Well, I don't see why it wouldn't be, but yeah, this side anyway. We haven't got to do the other side. So yeah, there we go. Let's carry on. Right, there we go. That is the bottom of the door all rubbed down. It's had 2 coats of filler primer. So now I've got these little foam pads here. I've got some super fine ones, 800 to 1000 they're rated at, or 600 to 1000 I should say, and the not so fine ones which are rated at 320 to 500. So I'm going to go with the 320 to 500 first, give it a nice flat down, try and get it all as smooth as I possibly can. I think I'm going to need a little bit of filler, or stopper I should say, on this area here and on the bottom of that wing just there. But other than that, it is not too bad at all. I think once it's all painted black and covered in dirt again, you're never ever going to notice it. But obviously I want to get it as best as I possibly can whilst I've got it in here being done. So I'm going to get this rubbed down with a bit of this, and then we'll go from there and see what we need to do next. Right, I've given this area at the front here another coat of filler primer, and I've rubbed it back again with the coarser pad and also this finer pad now as well, all over, and it is as smooth as you like. Not going to get that any better than that. I'm not going to put any filler in this. I don't see the point in it. It's got a little tiny imperfection if you look just there, which you're never ever going to be able to see once it's on the ground and in black. And the same down here, it's got a few imperfections where those rust scabs were, but I know full well although I've put that rust stuff on there, that's not going to last forever. So chances are I am going to have to do that again at some point in this cab's life while I'm still using it. If I put filler in it, then obviously that makes it harder for me in the future to then re-rub it all back down again. So I'm going to leave well alone. It is as good as it needs to be for what it is. One thing I am going to do extra though, I'm going to back mask the front edge of this wing here. I'm going to use some of this anti-gravel, basically stone chip, and I'm going to go along that front edge of here just to make sure that's got a little bit of extra protection on that front edge of that wing to hopefully stop it from stone chipping quite so easy, hopefully hold back the rust for a little bit longer. So I'm going to back mask that, give that a quick coat, maybe 2 of that gravel, anti-gravel, yeah, it's called anti-gravel pseudo. It's only a fine, very fine stone chip, this one, because it's in a cam, but that's not such a bad thing because it's not so textured, so it doesn't notice so much. And it seems daft not to do it whilst I'm here, the same as it seemed daft not to do all these other little bits of rust while I was here as well, which is why I've done the whole door, because there's no point in doing this bit and this bit and then having that bit. It's pointless. So that is why I've done the whole lot. So let's get that front edge back masked, get that front edge stone chipped, we'll let that dry, maybe give it a couple of coats as I say, and then we can get on to putting some black paint on. Right, hopefully you can see I've got the 2 coats of stone chip on that front edge now, and I've just lightly flatted back that very edge just so that it's not got a sharp lip on it. Not that it really had one anyway, because I did feather the tape, but anyway, done that. Now this isn't technically the right stuff to use, but I've got some brake cleaner here with a fresh cloth, and I'm going to give it a liberal soaking of that to allow me to obviously clean down this panel and get it as absolutely best as I possibly can get it. You can see how quickly it evaporates. I've still got the heater on out here, but obviously not facing the panel directly because I don't want the paint to hit the panel and dry too quickly, because obviously that would be not good because it won't flow very well. So obviously you want to make sure this is as absolutely clean as it possibly can be. I have blown it off with an airline as well, to obviously try and get rid of any dust that might be lurking anywhere on the panel. Got a little rough bit there where the stone chippers obviously overlapped got around my masking slightly, so I'm just going to give that a little rub down, get rid of those little particles that are there, just so that it is totally smooth. Better. Yeah, before you could feel it. If you can feel it, you're going to be able to see it. So remember, I'm by no means a professional at bodywork. What I've learned over the years. I mean, I did work in a body shop for 10 years, but in different capacities, if that makes sense. I wasn't actually painting the cars, although I did gain a lot of experience whilst I was there of doing stuff, which obviously helps. So there we go, there is our door and wing all cleaned as best as it possibly can be. It's definitely smooth enough, I think. Don't think I need to go any further with that. It's as I said before, filler would be a waste of time, because I know full well definitely on that wing that will come back at some point in the future, so it's saving me a little bit by not putting any filler in it. Right, got my little mask, 3M mask, just to obviously stop any fumes going down my throat. So you might not be able to hear me very now, but we're going to get the base coat going, so let's get some black on here. Right, I'm going to let that go off for 5 or 10 minutes, get the heater back blowing just so it's got some ambient temperature in here. And once we have got that sort of to a dry stage, we'll give it, I would say it's probably going to want another couple of coats. I've only gone very light. You can still see the primer showing through in places. I've not gone heavy at all. You're better off doing lots of light coats, especially when it's cold, because it will obviously dry a lot easier than whacking on a load of heavy paint and then waiting for hours for it to dry. So I'm going to walk away from this now, just leave it alone, and as soon as it's dry we'll get another coat going on there, maybe go a little bit heavier, and should be absolutely marvellous. Right, there we go. That is, I think, either 3 or 4 coats of base coat black on that. Now, remember what I said, this cab is a workhorse. Not that I'm making excuses for poor work or anything like that, but you can see some slight imperfections if you look just there where I've rubbed it down, and also just there you can see a ring in the paint, which is really annoying because I thought I'd got that as smooth as I possibly could. You couldn't feel that at all. Being black, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do. It's going to show up the marks, but it's 184,000 miles, getting on for 200,000 miles after not too long, I wouldn't have thought, and it's just got to stay on the road. It's not a show car or anything like that. I wanted it to get it as perfect as I possibly could, and I'm a bit miffed about that, if I'm honest, but I'm not going to redo it for the sake of that. So we're going to move on, keep the momentum going. We have got our 2K in a can with the old ring pull on the bottom. This has got an active hardener in it. You release the ring, well, you pull the ring pull to release the hardener, shake it up, and that gives you 2K lacquer in a can, which is really, really good, really, really strong, and it polishes up really, really nice. So I'm going to get set up with that. I'm going to get that in front of the heater for a minute, actually. Get that so that it will flow nicely. We're going to do one fairly light coat just to get some lacquer on there, let it tack up for 5 minutes, and then we'll go with a heavier coat. And fingers crossed it will look pretty decent. I think it's definitely going to look better than what it did before when I did the 2 patches there and there anyway. So yeah, I'm fairly happy with it. It could have been a little bit better, but as I say, I've done my best and that's what it's come out like. So it's a day's, well, on and off a day's work today. So it's about, I don't know what time it is, about 11:30, 11:45 at night at the moment. I need to get this lacquer on here tonight so I can get it drying overnight, and then we can flip the cab round and sort out that damage on the door on the other side in the morning. So let me get set up and we'll get some lacquer on the go. Right, I'm set up. I've got my mask around my neck. I'm just going to clip it on, and then we'll get some lacquer on the go. As I say, light coat first and then followed by a heavier coat after about 5 or 6 minutes. One thing to note as well, I have shaken this up off camera. Once you've pulled the ring pull, you're supposed to shake it for about 2 minutes, which I have, so just so you know. Alright, I don't want to take my mask off because this stuff is not good for you, so I'm going to let that go off for about 5 or 6 minutes. It's a very light coat. As you see, I went over it fairly quickly, and yeah, as I say, I've got to go because it stinks in here and I don't want to sit next to it. Right, I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm going to go for the next coat. This is just tacky now, so it should hopefully accept a heavier coat and prevent any runs or sags with any luck. That's the plan anyway. I hope you can hear me alright. I've still got my mask on, so right, let's get a second coat on. Hopefully it'll be alright. So I'm going to do the same thing again, let that go off for 5 minutes. I'll give it one final coat. I don't want to risk getting any runs in it, that's the thing, but I want enough material on there to be able to flatten polish it once it's gone off. So I do need to do one more coat to make sure that there's enough lacquer on there. So let's let that go off, we'll do one more, and then it's in the lap of the gods. Okay, I've done one more coat off camera. As you can see, I've still got my mask on, I'm just holding it out very slightly so you can hear me better. That's not a bad finish, to be fair, on a black car. That's not too horrendous. Now, it will be improved a hell of a lot with a flat and polish, don't get me wrong. But out of a spray can, that ain't too tabby. Got some imperfections in it, as I said before, but I'm not worried about that. It's a million times better than what it was when I just did those 2 patches, and obviously I've addressed all the other bits of rust on the door for the time being as well. Now, as I said before, this is probably going to come back again in a couple of years' time, but the way these cabs are made from factory and the paint finish that's on them from factory, it's a wonder they last as long as they do, because the paint on them is absolutely terrible. Not saying mine's $1 million, but it's no worse than what's on the cab. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. It's about 1:45 in the morning now. I'm going to let that go off overnight, and hopefully I've done enough to be able to flatten polish it and get a nice finish out of it. I think I have. I mean, it's had 1 dust coat and it's had 2 fairly heavy coats, with a little bit of space in between. Now, I'm very dubious with this lacquer in a can. If you leave it too long and you go over it again, and believe me, I've done this, it will react and you will have to start everything all over again. So once you've done it, you've done it. That's the end of it. You can't go back, like in the morning for example, and do it again or give it another coat, because it will just pickle up and you'll have to start all over again and strip the whole lot back. So what I've done now is how it's going to be, unfortunately. As I say, I think I've done enough. Never can tell until it's done. But I ain't going to touch it anymore now, because even out of a can like that, for a cab that's probably going to be covered in rubbish in about sort of 20 minutes as soon as I've driven it up the A13. Yeah, you get the idea. Right, I will see you fresh and early, well, after I've done the school run in the morning. Right, you can see me in there, got my hood up. It's the next morning, I've unmasked the cab, and as you can see, that bodywork is actually not too bad. It's a bit orange peely, but as I say, once that's flat and polished, I think that will look more than acceptable. I've got obviously polished this edge in here, which should be fine. It's just got a bit of overspray there at the moment, which is great because that means that it won't have stuck any sort of black paint or lacquer to it too much, so it should polish off really nice and easy. So I think before I start polishing, I'm going to flip the cab round and get going on the other side, because that's going to take me a bit longer than obviously polishing will. So let's get this flip round and I'll show you what we've got to work with on the other side. Right, with the cab turned round, you can see what we're up against on this side. Now, this is where the passenger opened the door, and as he opened it about that far, a bus went past and it just caught the edge of it and it folded it all outwards, and I obviously whacked it back into some sort of shape and just tossed a bit of black over it to keep it on the road. Now I have noticed, having sat down here, that there's a scab on the bottom of this door as well. So it looks like we're going to be doing a bit of paintwork on the bottom of this door too. I might just try and blow this corner in though, because I don't want to be doing the whole door on this side. So that was a fair amount of work to do that. Having said that, well, we've got a few little scabs. We've got one there, and one there, right on that edge where obviously people have opened it onto things. But obviously that's all in the same area as all this. So I'm basically going to be painting this area, and I have to try and fade it out somehow. I don't know how well that's going to go. I know you can see me in the reflection there. It's very, very shiny, this cab, believe it or not. I do try and keep it polished and nice, and when someone does this to it, it really disheartens you. Now the problem is, if you look down it, it's quite a big dish. You can see where the moulding's not sitting against it anymore. Now before, I obviously didn't want to make too much of a hash of the way it looked as far as a dent, but now I'm repairing it properly as such. I think I need to get the door panel off inside again and see whether I can get any more leverage on that panel to try and pop a bit more of it out. And obviously if it damages the paint a bit more this time, it doesn't matter because we're going to be painting it anyway. So I'm going to get the door panel off. It's pretty easy still on these. I'll just show you quickly. Hang on a second. This cab needs a really good polish after I've done all this, because it's got dust and mank all over it. So basically you've got one screw there, two at the bottom. That strap comes off, this handle comes off, and the switches come off with the panel. I think that yellow bit pops out. It's pretty simple, and it's on pop clips all the way around. It's pretty easy to do on these, because obviously it's meant for ease of use and maintenance and all that sort of carry on. So let me get that taken off, and then we'll go from there and see what we can do inside as far as getting that dent out. Right, I'm hoping you're going to be able to see in here. Space is very, very limited. Let me see if I can get the torch in there and I'll show you what I mean. Right, you stay there, torch. Now if I zoom in, it's very difficult to show, but there's literally that little, let me zoom in. That little crack up the top there is what I'm working with. You can see where it's crushed in. So basically I'm going to try and get a bar of some description in there as flat as I can, maybe with a filler spreader on the panel side so it doesn't put loads of little dents in it. And I'm going to try and lever that out a little bit because it is a little bit too deep for my liking for filler. So that's what I'm working with basically. I've not got a lot of room in there at all. I've took that membrane right off because obviously it was in the way, and I kept headbutting that sticky black gooey stuff that sticks it on the bitumen stuff, so I got that rid of that because I was getting on a wick. So I'm going to work this, see what I can do, and hopefully I'll have a bit of success with any luck. Right, as you would have seen in that time lapse, I've been trying to weld a piece of angle onto the outside of the crease to pull it out. The problem I've got is I've run out of welding gas, and the welds obviously aren't very strong without the welding gas. So I think I'm going to have to take a trip out and get a new can of, or a new bottle of welding gas to make this work, because it is improved. Well, you can probably tell, but it is improved. But I need a bit more sticking power with that welder, or with the welding gas I should say, to make this work how I need it to work. So yeah, I think it's going to be a case of buzzing out, getting a new bottle of gas, which is, say it's easy, it's like a 2-hour trip, so probably an hour each way. So yeah, bit of a pain this one, to be honest with you. I didn't think it's going to be quite as tough as this, but it is being yeah, being a pain in the bum. Let's carry on. Right, I have returned with a new welding gas, and as you can see I've got the plate welded on here. Now it's unbelievably strong in comparison to what it was without the welding gas. I've done 4 tacks on there, and I've given that a few pulls with a slide hammer, and it has come out massively already. Now it needs to come a little bit more out, but it is going to be nowhere near as much filler as what it was before, which is absolutely superb. That's what I was hoping for. So I'm just sort of working my way. I'm using these holes that are in it, I'm using the top and the bottom, and I'm just pulling it out as best I can. I just want to get it somewhere near where it needs to be. Obviously we'll do the last little bit with filler, but I didn't want to have a big lump of filler in the door there, because every time someone slams the door, you know full well it's going to end up cracking after a while. So yeah, I'm well chuffed with that. It took me about 1 hour and 3/4 to get the gas, but literally within 5 minutes of being back and tacking that on there, 4 tacks rather than about 10, and it is pulling out. So I'm going to carry on the way I was before, sort of working this as best I can, trying to get it to pull out as best I can, and hopefully we'll have something that's somewhere near, not dent free, but a lot flatter than it was at least. That's the aim. Right, I just thought I'd film a little bit of this. I've actually drilled these holes out slightly bigger, so I've been able to take the hook off the end of the slide hammer and bolt this directly into the piece of metal, so that I have no risk of it slipping off. And I've given that a pull, and that has done it absolutely brilliantly. So I'm going to do the same at the top now. Hopefully I won't need much more. As I say, I don't want it to be proud. If it is proud, I'll just tap it back slightly. I just want it to be as flush as it can be, so there's not tons of filler in it. That's the plan. So this is what I'm doing. I'm sorry about the loud noise, but that just pulled out really nicely then. So I'm going to go through all these holes like this. And I know this is not ideal, welding a plate to your car, but if you've got to pull a dent out and you can't get inside it, this is what you have to do sometimes, and I haven't got a dent puller as such, so this is the next best thing. It's amazing how much stronger those welds are with the gas. before, it was just literally pulling it off. But now it's, well, I mean, I've put those 4 welds on there and I haven't had to redo them again, so it shows you the difference in strength. And these holes in this angle were already drilled in this, luckily, so I've just utilised what I've got, basically. Wants to come out a little bit more there, really. The top and the bottom seem to be quite good now. Definitely nowhere near as much as it was. I wonder if all cab drivers do things like this. My gut is saying probably not. Could do with a bigger slide hammer really, but still. What we got? It's doing the job. What I might have to do, by the looks of it, is maybe cut those welds off and just weld it in a different position, so that I'll get a pull from slightly up or slightly down. I'm going to have to cut those because they are that strong. They ain't coming off, which is good. Just got to be careful I don't cut into the bodywork. So far, and you should be able to flex it, hopefully, to snap them. God, they're not strong. That is amazing how much difference that gas makes. Unbelievable amount of difference. There we go. And there's still a divot there, so maybe what I could do is I'll grind, up there's okay now. I'll grind these off, and I'm going to move the plate over maybe very slightly, so I can try and pull more on this bit here. I don't know if I'm going to get any better than that, to be honest with you. It's a million times better than what it was. Yeah, the top's okay. If anything, the top's slightly proud now, so I need to tap that in slightly just so I've got something to get a little bit of filler in. Not much. It's not going to be perfect, this repair, I'm telling you that now, but if I can get it somewhere halfway decent, I shall be very happy. Right, I'm going to get this all ground off and carry on like I have been. Right, that is the stage we're at the moment. As you can see, I've buzzed it back with a DA to try and get it a little bit sort of smoother. It's very sort of, it's got a dent there, but it's not too horrendous. It gets deeper as it goes down. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go one more round welding the bit of plate. Where has it gone? I can't find it. Welding this on here, but I'm going to weld the end on. So I'm only in one little position now, and I'll try and pull it from there. Now I'm not doing the tack so strong this time because obviously I want them to snap off after a couple of goes, because I don't want to have to keep grinding it back, because otherwise it'll make the metal too thin. It has made it a bit thin up here, but I think we're okay. So yeah, I'm going to just get that tacked in down on that bit there and pull that, and then do the same on that bit there and pull that. That bit there's probably okay for just a little bit of filler. If I can get this bit and this bit and maybe this little area here out a little bit more, then I think we'll be somewhere near it and we'll be able to get a nice skim of filler on there, and that should be good enough. It's been a bit of a process, this one, to be honest with you. I may try and build this edge out very slightly with a little bit of weld, because as you can see it goes in there where it took the edge away when it kinked it, and I obviously had to grind it smooth so that I could carry on using the cab. So I might try and just buzz a little bit of weld along that bit and just smooth it in so that we've got a decent shape there again. It's not majorly critical, but if I can get it to look halfway decent, then obviously I will. I don't know what it's going to look like at the end. I'm going to try and keep it sort of below the handle here and buzz this area in with paint. Go up to this little small area here because that's a small line to lose it on, and then maybe go on that line there above the handle just so that it runs there, and then somewhere under here we'll fade it out, hopefully. That's the plan. Whether it works or not is completely another matter, but yeah, I'm fighting against time at the moment because it is currently about 5 to 4 on Wednesday afternoon. I've just got back from picking the kids up from school, and they've got to go back out again with them to gymnastics, and I've got to come back and carry on with this, and I've got to try and get it done before tomorrow because I've got MOT in the morning at 9:45. So yeah, it's going to be a bit touch and go, this one, but we'll give it a go and see what we can do. Right, I think we're there on pulling out and welding the edge side of things now. It's not by any stroke of imagination perfect, but I think if I'm trying to do that anymore, I'm going to start pulling and tearing holes in it, and it's just not worth it, and I haven't got the time either. The last thing I want to do before we get any filler on the go is, you can see it's a little bit oil canny, as they call it. So what I was going to try was put a little bit of heat with a blowtorch around this area and see if I can just sort of get it to shrink in slightly, so that to get rid of a bit of that oil canniness. That's what I'm hoping. Probably do the opposite, no my luck, but still. You're supposed to heat it up like that apparently, and it gets rid of the, that's hot, the oil canniness. Whether it works or not, I don't know. Yeah, look at that. That's amazing. That's totally solid now. Wow. I was not expecting that. I'm really pushing that with the car. Just by heating it up, that's made that go proper solid. Oh, I'm all chuffed. Right, there you go. I've learned something new there too. You can probably see me in my amazement in the reflection of the door. So I'll let that cool down again now. I'm going to leave this edge. Where are you? Not looking, are you? Pay attention, will you? I'm trying to show you. Right, I'm going to keep this edge a little bit thicker on the weld, because I don't want a very, very thin edge on that edge of that door, because obviously the thinner it is, the weaker it is. So I'm going to leave that with a little bit of weld protruding very slightly. It's only very minor. I've ground it all flat and it's nice and smooth, but it's something for the filler to stick to as well. So I can't believe that oil canning thing is, that's lovely and solid now. Superb. I'm well chuffed about that. Right, I need to let it cool down for a minute, and then I'll get some filler on the go. Right then, filler time. We have got the Evercoat Rage Gold, which is the filler of choice that I like to use. I've got my onion board. I've got a nice wide spreader. I've got the hardener, obviously, for mixing up with. Now I've got a narrower spreader as well, but purely for getting the filler out of the tin and onto my onion board, because otherwise you end up with it all up the sides of your spreader and it gets absolutely everywhere. So let's get a little bit of this mixed up. Move you back a little bit so you can see what's going on. I think you can see what's going on there. All right. Don't know how much this is going to take, but we shall find out. Hopefully not too much, because of all the work I've done previously to get it as flat as I can, so we don't need a ton of filler in it, because that was my biggest concern, was if you just lobbed it up with loads of filler, every time you shut the door it's going to be liable for cracking a lot easier. Right, so we've got a filler on the board, as you can see. I like to get it into like a nice sort of puddle shape, because that way it makes it easier to sort of get the judge the hardener. So as you get it into a circle like that, and this hardener, it's like a dark blue colour. It comes with the Evercoat Rage Gold. Just give it a little squidge up if you haven't used it for a while, to mix it all up, to make sure it's all mixed in. And usually I just put get the manky bit out first, put a line across about halfway, usually, something like that. That's usually enough. And obviously mix all that in so it's all disappeared and there's a uniform colour. This onion board unfortunately has seen better days, so when you try and mix up on it, the sheet that you're trying to mix up on comes up in the air. just like that. It does make it a little bit tricky to mix up, but still, we shall persevere. When you're doing bodywork a lot, obviously stuff gets replaced a lot. Because I haven't done bodywork for a while, things start to go a bit manky and need obviously replacing, you know. I'm actually going to transfer this onto another sheet because it's only held on with one little corner. So there we go, there's our filler mixed up on there. You can see, nice uniform colour. And then we're just going to obviously spread it on there and hope for the best. Someone's out to get me. It's unusual around here. I'm trying to do it up and down purely for the fact that it will bridge the two sides that I know are fairly flat, if that makes sense, and obviously give us the minimum amount of filler we need to get this to look half decent and don't look like it's gobbed up. I've actually mixed up a ton of filler here and I don't really need it, which is not a bad thing, I suppose. But you can see that it's not very thick at all. That it's quite a thin skin. Once that's sanded as well, obviously it'll be even thinner. So I'm going to put it on a little bit thicker in places because then I've got the ability to sand it back again after. You know, it's on rather over the material on there. This is starting to go off already. Maybe I put a bit too much hardener in it. I'd rather have the material on there and have the ability to sand it back than not have enough on there and have to keep reapplying it, if that makes sense. Now, I'm no expert at this. This is purely what I've learned through doing it myself and watching other people. So, any tips and tricks, feel free to put them in the comment section down below. Because I'm just a bloke in a garage pretending to be a cab driver and a bodywork person, which I'm not going to be fooling anyone with either of those. Maybe the cab driver, I'm not too bad at that. But now I'm going to put a little bit around the top of this moulding purely for the fact I can't get behind the moulding to get the dent out, and just to minimise it a little bit, it might help. I'm sanding it down. Now this is what you don't want to get in, don't want to start paintbrushing it, if that makes sense, which is what I'm doing now. So just get it as smooth as you can and leave it alone. Right, keep seeing more bits that I want to try and get right, like that. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that and let that dry with the heater on it for a little while, make sure it's gone off nice and hard, and we'll come back and have a look and see what we can do for rubbing down. Let's just get that edge so that it's not all manky. Makes it easier when you rubbed it down then. Don't be afraid to use your fingers. Get it off the panel that's on next to it, that shouldn't be on. And the handle. Right, I shall come back to you once it's dry. Right, this is where we're at after the first layer of filler is rubbed back. Now there is a bit of a lump here. I don't think I'm going to be able to do much about that. and I'm running out of time fast. I might try and just tap it with a hammer just to knock that high spot down there, and then maybe go over it with some dolphin glaze just to give it a little skim over with some of that to obviously aid any little imperfections and marks I've got here. And it does dip down here a little bit, but I'm not worried about that. It is what it is at the end of the day, so as long as there's not a big dent there, that's all I'm worried about. So might have a little go at that in a second, just see what I can do with that, and then we'll carry on with there. Right, sit rep. As per usual with jobs that are pressing and needing doing at the last minute, things are going on par, by which I mean badly. You may be able to hear the faint hissing sounds from over there. I went in very briefly to say goodnight to my two daughters, and when I came back out, the airline had fallen off of whatever it was on and draped itself over my heater, and it's now got 2 holes in it, so I have no airline. And it is getting to the stage where it's getting a bit too late to use it anyway, so I'm now down to hand sanding and finishing by hand and all the rest of it. Now you can see I've gone down the bottom edge of the door there. There are 3 rust spots, the corner being the worst. They've currently got rust treatment on them, which is drying. Should have the heater in front of it really, that would help, wouldn't it? So let's put the heater in front of it, there we go. That's had a coat of dolphin glaze up there, which is, where is it? Oh, that's another thing that's not ideal. There's dolphin glaze. Now this is still pliable luckily, but I have noticed that the back of the pouch somehow has got punctured, which means it has not, it's not as runny and as pliable as maybe it once was, because it was obviously letting air in, so I put some tape over it. So I don't know how that happened, but that was in my box of BODYWORK stuff, and yeah, so things are going well. It's by no means perfect. I can still feel a bit of undulation just there and just there, but I can't do any more. I'm running out of time. I need it back on the road. I've got MOT at, as I said before, 9:45 in the morning, and yeah, that's the situation. So it's got to be what it's going to be, unfortunately. I will obviously do it the best I can, but I've just got to crack on tonight and get this done. So once that cure rust's gone off, I may give that bottom, these ones weren't very bad at all, but that bottom one I'm probably going to give another coat to that. Then we can get some filler primer on the go, and hopefully that may take up a little bit of the undulation there, possibly if I reflat it back down again after that's on there. But on the whole, it looks a hell of a lot better than what it did. The edge of the door is all nice and straight now, where you saw me weld the edge up to make it a bit more straight again. It hasn't got a kick in it anymore, so that's good. I think it'll be presentable once it's done. It won't be perfect by any stroke of imagination. And I had all this area taped off on this arch, and where did I get a bit of filler? The one bit the tape wasn't. So I've got to try and get that off there now as well. So that's another thing I've got to try and sort out. Marvellous. Let's crack on. Right, there we go. We are all masked. First coat of filler primer is there, now on there drying. So that is the first of a couple of coats of that. Then we'll get it untaped, re-rubbed back down again, and then I've got to work out how I'm going to try and blend this in, because that's a bit of a nemesis for me. I've never been that good at blending. Having said that, the last time I did it, it didn't come out too bad, so we'll see. Got to get the filler primer on the go first and give that a flat back. So let's do that, and then we'll carry on from there. Right, all this work today has come down to this. I've remasked it again, as you can probably tell, and I've moved the masking tape out, because obviously before I only did where I wanted to prime it, and I feathered the edges out, so I've actually rubbed this down so it is nice and smooth. I'm going to give that one last little wipe with some brake clean to make sure that it's lovely and clean. This is it now. Whatever this turns out like is what it's going to turn out like. I've done my absolute best with it. So we're going to get some TX1 Taxi Black on here, which is the same as the TX4, because I've never changed the colour. Get my mask on. Probably going to do 2 or 3 coats of this. A light one to start with, and then maybe 2 slightly heavier ones. Maybe 3, depending on how it covers. and then we'll get the old lacquer on the go, see what sort of job we can make of it. Right, I'm going to leave it for that for a minute, let that go off with the heater on it, and then we'll repeat the process a little bit heavier until I'm happy with its coverage, and then go for the lacquer. Top banana. Right, there we go, it is the next morning. I am in a mad panic now to get the cab all cleaned up. As you can see, I've pulled all the masking tape off, and I'm not mad about that. I mean, there's a bit of a flat spot there where I've gone a bit too far, flattening the edge down, but once I polish that back up again, I think that'll look pretty damn good. I'm pretty chuffed with that, to be honest with you. Don't think that could have come out any better than that. All my edges are nice and smooth. Once I've flattened and polished it, same down here. Once I've flattened and polished it, I think it'll be hard pushed to see it. I mean, you will see it because it's not perfect by any stroke of imagination, but at least it's not got a funny residue on the top of that moulding, but at least it's not got any mega edges on it, and it's fairly shiny, as you can see. So I think once that's flat and polished, that will be absolutely marvellous. So now I've got a mad panic, get the cab out of the garage, give it a clean up, and get to the MOT garage in about an hour. So let's crack on. Right, it is a few hours or a couple of hours later, and you'll be pleased to know that the old cab has flown through the MOT. Had a couple of advisories on the top suspension arm bushes being very slightly worn, but that is absolutely fine. It's just advisories, so that's no problem. So I just thought I'd show you what I'm doing now. I have been machine polishing the cab, which is why it's all dull on these two panels at the moment, and I've got to the bottom of this door. Now this door's been done for over 24 hours now, so I can actually flat and polish it. So I've just started flattening and polishing this little area here to try and get the transition on the bottom of the wing to the new paintwork obviously a bit better. So basically I'm using 2000 grit wet and dry wet in a bucket, and I'm going to go over this whole area on the bottom of this door like this, keep the block flat, and that will get rid of any orange peel that I've got, and then I'll go over it after with some compound, machine polish it. Let me sit you down so I'm not joggling you all over the place. Hang on a second. Alright, otherwise you're going to be going everywhere. Okay, so yeah, keeping it nice and flat, going over the whole panel, or the whole area I've painted I should say, and this will get rid of any imperfections. There wasn't actually that much dirt in this, to be honest with you. I was quite surprised considering I was doing it on the garage floor, and those garage doors aren't exactly sealed. Yeah, there's not really, I think I've got one piece of dirt in it, which is nothing really, so I'm going to flat all this back like this. I'm probably not going to have to do the other side yet, unfortunately, because it hasn't been long enough for it to go hard. I may do that in the morning before I go for the overhaul, but this side obviously has been on a bit longer, so should be okay to flat and polish this side now. Well, it seems to be doing just fine, so I'm going to carry on doing this. I'm going to get all this machine polished. I'm doing the whole cab machine polishing wise. I'm not going over the whole cab with compound, only with polish, like finishing polish, just to obviously get any little swirl marks and whatever off, and to bring out the nice black deep gloss shine in it. So I didn't see the point in going over it all with compound, because that ends up taking a layer off effectively. And as I said before, the paintwork on these cabs is not the greatest from factory as far as thickness is concerned, and it's quite easy to burn through. So if I can just keep it looking shiny, I'm more than happy with that. And I've actually done the roof so far. I'll show you in a little while. I've done the roof so far. I've actually used the Avalon King Armour Shield 9 ceramic coat on it this time rather than doing wax. So we'll see what that goes like. Might keep it a little bit cleaner hopefully, and protect it a little bit more from all the disgusting weather we've been having lately. Right, I'm going to carry on doing this, and I will get it machine polished, and I'll show you what it looks like once I've done it. There we go, that is the bottom of that door and wing polished. Not bad for a cab driver, pretty happy with that. You can see the old C1 in the reflection there, and me with the yellow cloth. That's pretty good. It's not bad, it's not bad. It's not perfect by any stroke of imagination, but it's okay. You can just about see where if you get to catch the light right, there's a very faint line just there. You can just see it move as I go along, which is where I ended the paint. But if you have to really look for it. I ain't worried about that at all. So that is that's really good. So I think I'm probably going to leave it at that. I don't want to flat it down any more than that, because I would rather have it, sounds stupid, but I would rather have it very slightly orange peel, which matches the back door, and have more material on it to protect it than I would have it absolutely glass smooth. So I'm pretty pleased with that. It's not bad, considering it came out of a spray can and I did it. That's not too bad. I'm pretty pleased. So I might go over it once more with a polisher, just to make sure I've got any small marks off and whatever else, but that is definitely more than good enough for the overhaul, and I dare say probably just as good as any cab repair shop would do, because they ain't in it for perfection. It's a cab at the end of the day. It's doing a million miles a year, and well, not quite, but you know what I mean. Yeah, so I think I've levelled with their sort of standard as such. If you catch it just right, you can see there's a little imperfection just there, and very slight little imperfections just there where those two patches were that I rubbed down with the rust was. But on the whole, it definitely looks better than having a big patch there and a big patch there. So yeah, pretty pleased with that. Lovely jubbly, top banana. Of course it passed. What did you expect? In all honesty, I'm probably just as surprised as you are that it passed this year, because that was a mammoth task getting all that bodywork done. Didn't seem like a lot to you maybe, but for doing it on the garage floor in the freezing cold with rattle cans and heaters and things, it did take its toll a little bit on that side of things. But anyway, it got through the oval. That is the main thing, and I'm absolutely well chuffed. It looks pretty good for its age, and it is good for at least another year on the road with the TfL inspectors and whatever else that are roaming around London when we're up there. You have to make sure everything's in order, otherwise they will have you for it. So at least I'm all good to go on that side of things. Now there are a couple of couple of other issues with the cab which I need to sort out in the near future. One of those being what I can only describe as a washing machine bearing noise. I don't know what it is, because all four wheel bearings have been changed on the cab fairly recently, so unless one of those has gone bad already, then it's something else. We've got to find out what. It's booked in next week to have its cam belt changed. I could do it, but it will take me a hell of a lot longer, and I don't want to mess it up basically, so I've put it into the garage. They know what they're doing, and they'll get it done in a day, and that'll keep me on the road and obviously working as much as possible. So that is really, really good. Get that done, sorted out the way, and not got to worry about that for another 80 or 90,000 miles, so that's good. So this is not going to be the last you see of the cab. As I'm sure you're probably aware, it does mega miles, and it's always going to need something or another, so it will probably be back on the channel in the not too distant future, I have no doubt. But in the meantime, I want to start getting cracking on that Lotus engine. You would have seen the reflection of it in the cab when it's in the garage there. I've got a load of parts for it now, and it's going to be getting rebuilt and hopefully going back in the car fairly soon with any luck. So need to start cracking on with that and get that done, and once that's back in the car and all the bits are back together again, I can then start maybe looking at bodywork on the old three-wheel van, because I don't want to make the garage all dusty and dirty whilst I've got an engine in pieces. So that is going to be the plan for that. So fair few things coming up in the not too distant future. I also need to sort the Puma out because that is still not running, and now I've got space in the garage on this side to get a car in there. I may even get the Puma in there, and we'll have a little look at that and see if we can sort that out too in between other jobs. So if you do like what you see, make sure you do 4 things for me: like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell. The little button down there is absolutely free, costs you absolutely nothing, and it makes a massive, massive difference to the channel. So I would really appreciate it if you could do that for me. That would be absolutely superb. Remember, I've got Instagram, MEC_TEC1985, and Facebook, MEC-TEC, for little sneak peeks during the week of what I'm up to. And all that's left me to say is thank you very much for watching. And if you want to join me soon for more automotive adventures, I will see you again next time. Cheers, guys.